Hello, word nerds. Welcome to this brand spanking new episode of The Dictionary. I am your host, Spencer. What was I going to say? Yesterday, I had jury duty. It's a thing you have to do if you are an American citizen. I did not get picked to sit on a jury, but I did have to go through the process, which was kind of time-consuming. But yeah, it was... It's an experience. I've only had to do that twice so far, and I'm sure I'll have to do it many more times in the rest of my life. All right, let's get to the words. First one is ampere or ampere, something like that. A-M-P-E-R-E. This is a noun from 1881. 1. The practical meter-kilogram-second unit of electric current that is equivalent to a flow of 1 coulomb per second, or to the steady current produced by 1 volt applied across a resistance of 1 ohm. Woo! Okay, coulomb, I think I pronounced it wrong, is C-O-U-L-O-M-B. The word ohm at the end is O-H-M. 2. The base unit of electric current in the international system of units that is equal to a constant current which, when maintained in 2 straight parallel conductors of infinite length and negligible circular sections 1 meter apart in a vacuum, produces between the conductors a force equal to 2 times 10 to the negative 7th Newton per meter of length. Yeah, another one. Whoa. I have enough understanding of science to be able to read that, but I have no idea what I just read unless somebody were to actually explain it to me. The etymology says this is from André Marie Ampere. Ampere was his last name. Next we have ampere hour. There is a hyphen between those two words. This is a noun from 1883, a unit quantity of electricity equal to the quantity carried past any point of a circuit in 1 hour by a steady current of 1 ampere. Now we have ampere turn, and there is a hyphen on that one too. This is a noun from 1884, the meter kilogram second unit of magnetomotive force equal to the magnetomotive force around a path that links with 1 turn of wire carrying an electric current of 1 ampere. Now we have amperometric, A-M-P-E-R-O-M-E-T-R-I-C. This is an adjective from 1940 relating to or being a chemical titration in which the measurement of the electric current flows under an applied potential difference between 2 electrodes in a solution is used for detecting the end point. I know I've mentioned this in the past, but boy, are there a lot of scientific words in the A's. I am really curious to know if the other letters will have this many. All right, now we have ampersand. This is a noun from 1835. A character typically... Oh, and then it shows what an ampersand looks like, standing for the word and. All right, so a character typically shaped like this, standing in for the word and. And I was the one who put in the word in, standing in. All right, let me see if I can describe this etymology to you, but I am very, very confused. I generally understand it, but not in the way that they're writing it. So I'll just read it to you and let's figure it out. This says it's an alternative of and in italics, parentheses, the symbol of an ampersand, per se and, that's all in italics, literally, parentheses, the character, end parentheses, the ampersand symbol by itself, parentheses, is the word, end parentheses, and then in italics the word and. Yeah, that is weird. It's way harder for you because you're just listening, but it's pretty difficult just for me to see this. But I think it's basically a combination of the phrase and per se and it got combined into the word ampersand, which became the symbol. But yeah, I would have to sit down with this one for a while to really figure out what it's trying to say. or have somebody just tell me. So if you know the history of this, let me know, email, Facebook, whatever. But I may also go to that website that I found out recently. It's etymology.com or something like that. And so I'm sure that'll give me some more info. All right, let's move on. We are at amphetamine. amphetamine. This is a noun from 1938. A racemic, I don't know of the pronunciation, racemic. I'm just going to say that's how it's pronounced. A racemic compound, C9H13N, or one of its derivatives, frequently abused as a stimulant of the central nervous system, but used clinically, especially as the sulfate or hydrochloride salt to treat hyperactive children and the symptoms of narcolepsy, and as a short-term appetite suppressant in dieting. Now we have a prefix, amphi or amph, amphi hyphen or amph hyphen. It means on both sides, of both kinds, or both, as in amphibrach, amphibrach, or amphidiploid. This is from Latin amphi, which means around or on both sides, which is from the Greek amphi or amph, and there's more at the word ambi, which we have read. Now we have amphibia, amphibiia. This is a noun from 1607, and it just has the synonym amphibians. So it is another way to give the plural amphibian. Which is our next word, amphibian. This is a noun from 1835. 1. An amphibious organism, especially any of a class amphibia, of cold-blooded vertebrates, as frogs, toads, or salamanders, intermediate in many characters between fishes and reptiles, and having gilled aquatic larvae and air-breathing adults. 2. An amphibious vehicle, especially an airplane designed to take off from and land on either land or water. Amphibian is also an adjective. The etymology says this is from the Greek amphibion, which means amphibious being, which is from the neutral of amphibios. Now we have amphibious, amphibious. And by the way, if we look at our prefix, amphi, it means on both sides or both kinds. And of course, amphibians can be on land and in the water, so that's why they get that prefix. So here we go with amphibious. This is an adjective from 1643. 1. Combining two characteristics. 2a. Relating to or adapted for both land and water, as in amphibious vehicles. 2b. Executed by coordinated action of land, sea, and air forces organized for invasion, as in an amphibious landing. Also, trained or organized for such action, as in amphibious forces. 3. Able to live both on land and in water, as in amphibious plants. Amphibiously is an adverb, and amphibiousness is a noun. Next we have amphibole, amphibole. This is a noun from circa 1823. 1, we have the synonym hornblende. That's one word, hornblende. 2, any of a group of complex silicate minerals with like crystal structures that contain calcium, sodium, magnesium, aluminum, or iron ions, or a combination of them. The etymology says this is from the Greek amphibolos, which means ambiguous. That's from amphibalane, which means to throw round, doubt. That's from the prefix amphi plus ballein, ballein, which means to throw. And there's more at the word devil. What? How did the devil get into this? He gets himself into everything. All right, last word for this episode is amphibolite. amphibole. This is a noun from 1826, a usually metamorphic rock consisting essentially of amphibole. That is our word that I had trouble with, at the beginning of the previous episode, I think? And so we will get to that word amphibole never? I'm not actually seeing that word in here. Oh, wait, no, that's the word we just read. I'm stupid. It's pronounced amphibole. First off, I got the pronunciation right. And it's a thing combining of a bunch of minerals and such. All right, that was a terrible ending, but we're going to leave it in. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Thank you and goodbye. Hello, word nerds. I am going to speak like this the whole episode. No, I'm not. That would be boring as hell for everybody. All right, first word for this episode is amphibology. amphibology. This is a noun from the 14th century, a sentence or phrase as nothing is good enough for you that can be interpreted in more than one way. And wow, I'm pretty sure most of the English language is like that. I think one of the biggest reasons for arguments or fights or anything negative like that is because of misunderstanding in what people say. This is actually something I think about every once in a while. I'm surprised. I did not expect to be talking about this right now, as usual. So communication is really important. People communicate in different ways. They have a thought in their brain. It makes sense with their thought process because that is their thought process and they got there on their own. But everybody else has a different thought process. Everybody else thinks in different ways. They have different life experiences that have gotten them to that point to understand things in a certain way and think of things in a certain way. And so when one person says some phrase to another person, depending on where they are in that moment and in their own type of thought process, they will understand that in a very different way. And it's usually not anybody's fault. That's just the way communication works. So trust me, I'm as bad as anybody about this. I try to be good, but it's really important, I think, to be as clear and vivid, to take another podcast's name, Clear and Vivid. It's really important to be clear and vivid in what you are saying, so everybody can understand it. It's very, very, very easy to misunderstand anything, really. And so the more clear you can be in what you're saying, even if you need to put in a bunch of extra words to say, hey, I'm talking about this thing, and then say your thing, even if you have to do that, it's all for the better. It could be frustrating to other people when you are super, super specific, but personally, I think it will solve potential future problems, meaning it will avoid future problems. That was a weird way to say that. Speaking of bad communication, see, I'm terrible too. So that's what I have to say. I now know that amphibology is a phrase that can be interpreted in more than one way, which, like I said, can really be almost anything. All right, next we have amphibole, amphibole. This is a noun from circa 1588, and we just have the synonym amphibology, the word that we just read. Next we have amphibrach, amphibRach. This is a noun from 1858. A metrical foot consisting of a long syllable between two short syllables in quantitative verse, or of a stressed syllable between two unstressed syllables in accentual verse, as in romantic is in accentual amphibrach. Now, why is it an amphibrach or accentual amphibrach? Maybe I should look back at the definition to figure that out. So I think what they're saying is romantic, the word romantic, is an accentual amphibrach because the middle syllable is stressed, and it's in between two syllables that are unstressed. So they call that an accentual amphibrach, and there are also amphibrachs where the middle syllable or where one syllable is long and it's in between two short ones, which I guess romantic kind of is like that too. Ro and tick, or Rome and tick, are kind of short, and an or man is longer. Amphibrachic is an adjective. Next, we have a weird word to me. Amphictyony. 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 This is a noun from 1835, an association of neighboring states in ancient Greece to defend a common religious center. Broadly, an association of neighboring states for their common interest. Amphictyonic is an adjective. The etymology says this is from the Greek amphictonia, which is from amphictyones, which means neighbors. That is from amphi plus kitiones, which is from kitien, which means to found or inhabit. And there's more at the word home. Next we have amphidiploid. Amphidiploid. It's a noun from 1930. An interspecific hybrid having a complete diploid chromosome set from each parent form, called also allotetraploid. Amphidiploid is also an adjective, and amphidiploidy is a noun, and a silly word. Next we have amphimixis. Amphimixis. This is a noun from 1893. The union of gametes in sexual reproduction. This is from combining amphi plus the Greek mixis, which means mingling. That is from mignai, which means to mix, and there's more at the word mix. Next we have amphion, capital Amphicyon. It's a noun from the 15th century. A musician of Greek mythology who builds the walls of Thebes by charming the stones into place with his lyre. I guess it could also be Thebes, but I'm not sure. That sort of reminds me of the character from the movie Labyrinth. His name is Ludo, Ludo. He is a very large, kind of orange-brown monster creature who's very sweet actually, but if he sings out, if he does this sort of melodic yelling, he can charm the stones to come to him and help him in time of need. But he doesn't do it with a lyre, he does it with his voice. Next we have amphioxus. Amphioxus. This is a noun from 1847. Any of a genus of lancelets, broadly just the synonym lancelet. That is spelled Lancelet. The genus name is Branchiostoma. The etymology says this is a New Latin from amphi plus the Greek oxys, Oxys, which means sharp. Now we have amphipathic. Amphipathic. This is an adjective from 1936, and we have the synonym amphiphilic, which is our next word. Amphipilic. This is an adjective from 1948 of relating to or being a compound as a surfactant consisting of molecules having a polar water-soluble group attached to a water-insoluble hydrocarbon chain, also being a molecule of such a compound. Amphiphile is a noun. All right, I think we'll do one more for this episode. It is the word amphipod, Amphipod. This is a noun from 1835. Any of a large order of small crustaceans, as the sand flea, with a laterally compressed body. Amphipod is also an adjective. The order is just Amphipoda or Amphipoda. The etymology says this is from the Greek amphi plus pod, or pous, P-O-U-S, which means foot, and there's more at the word foot. And that is a good place to end this episode. Thank you for listening. Rate, review, subscribe, share, contact me, etc., etc. Thank you so much for listening, and adieu. Hello, word nerds. How are you today? I hope you were doing well. I'm doing fine, except I have this stupid injury on my finger, which I mentioned a few episodes ago. But today's Thursday, which means that tomorrow's Friday, which means that the next day is the weekend. All right, first word for this episode is amphiprostyle. Yeah? Yeah. A-M-P-H-I-P-R-O-S-T-Y-L-E. It's an odd word. This is an adjective from 1850, having columns at each end only, as in an amphiprostyle building. Amphiprostyle is also a noun. This is from the Greek amphi plus prostylos, which means having pillars in front. And that is from pro plus stylos or stylos, which means pillar. And there's more at the word steer. Now we have amphispina, A-M-P-H-I-S-B-A-E-N-A. This is an interesting word. This is a noun from the 14th century, a serpent in classical mythology having a head at each end and capable of moving in either direction. Amphispenic is an adjective. This is from the Greek amphis, which means on both sides, from amphi, which means around, plus binding, which means to walk or go, and there's more at the words by, B-Y, and come, C-O-M-E. Now we have amphitheater, a much more quote-unquote normal word, A-M-P-H-I-T-H-E-A-T-E-R. This is a noun from the 14th century. 1. An oval or circular building with rising tiers of seats ranged about an open space and used in ancient Rome especially for contests and spectacles. Not the spectacles that you wear in front of your eyes, but a spectacle in the sense that it is a big thing to watch. 2a, a very large auditorium. 2b, a room with a gallery from which doctors and students may observe surgical operations. You may have seen that sort of thing in older TV shows and movies, but I guess they still use them in current ones as well. 2c, a rising gallery in a modern theater. 2d, a flat or gently sloping area surrounded by abrupt slopes. 3, a place of public entertainment, as for games or concerts. Amphitheatric and amphitheatrical are adjectives, and amphitheatrically is an adverb. Now we have amphitryon. This is a noun from 1567. It is spelled capital A-M-P-H-I-T-R-Y-O-N. The husband of Alcmene or Alcmene. A-L-C-M-E-N-E. I am not familiar with that, although, God, I probably read it when I was in the ALs. I don't remember. I read a lot of these words. All right, moving on. We have amphora. Could also be pronounced amphory or amphorai. I feel like I'm singing that word. Ha-ba-dee, da-ba-die, da-ba-doo, da-ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm terrible with words. All right, amphora, A-M-P-H-O-R-A. This is a noun from the 14th century. 1. An ancient Greek jar or vase with a large oval body, narrow cylindrical neck, and 2 handles that rise almost to the level of the mouth, and broadly such a jar or vase used elsewhere in the ancient world. 2. A 2-handled vessel shaped like an amphora. I'm curious to know why this word and another word like amphitheater, why they have the AMPH or AMPHI prefix. Typically that means on both sides of some kind. Amphitheater, I don't really understand why it's used that way. I'm sure there was some reason back when the word was created for these old ancient Greek or Roman theaters. Amphora, maybe because it has two handles. I'm not sure, but I might have to go look those up on that etymology website. All right, next we have amphoteric, A-M-P-H-O-T-E-R-I-C. This is an adjective from circa 1849, partly one and partly the other, specifically capable of reacting chemically either as an acid or as a base. This is from the Greek amphoteros, which means each of two. That is from ampho, which means both, and there's more at the word or the prefix ambi, A-M-B-I. Now we have amphotericin B. So B is kind of its own word. Amphotericin is A-M-P-H-O-T-E-R-I-C-I-N. This is a noun from 1955, an antifungal antibiotic obtained from a soil streptomycete and used especially to treat systemic fungal infections. The streptomycete scientific name is Streptomyces nodosus. Next we have AMP-HR, A-M-P, next word H-R. This is an abbreviation for ampere hour, which we read a couple episodes ago. Now we have ampicillin, A-M-P-I-C-I-L-L-I-N. This is a noun from 1961, a penicillin C16H19N3O4S that is effective against gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria and is used to treat various infections of the urinary, respiratory, and intestinal tracts. Now we have the word ample, A-M-P-L-E. This is an adjective from the 15th century. 1. Generous or more than adequate in size, scope, or capacity, as in, there was room for an ample garden. 2. Generously sufficient to satisfy a requirement or need, as in, they had ample money for the trip. 3. We have these synonyms buxom and portly, as in, an ample figure. Synonyms are spacious and plentiful. Ampleness is a noun, and amply is an adverb. Now we have amplexus, A-M-P-L-E-X-U-S. This is a noun from circa 1927, the mating embrace of a frog or toad during which eggs are shed into the water and there fertilized. I guess it could also say, and fertilized there, but maybe that's not as proper English. This is from Latin. It means embrace. It's from amplecti, to embrace, and that is made combining am or amb, which means around, plus plectere, which means to braid. And there's more at the word ambi, and ply, P-L-Y. I would love to memorize a lot of these words like amplexus, but I probably won't. All right, last word for this episode is amplification, a relatively normal word amongst all these relatively not normal words. A-M-P-L-I-F-I-C-A-T-I-O-N. This is a noun from 1546. 1A, an act, example, or product of amplifying. 1B, a usually massive replication of genetic material and especially of a gene or DNA sequence, as in a polymerase chain reaction. 2A, the particulars by which a statement is expanded. 2B, an expanded statement. All right, that definition went over to the next page, so that will definitely end it here. For the next episode, we will be starting on page 43. Thank you for listening. Rate, review, subscribe, contact me, say what's up, tell me you hate it, tell me you love it, tell me you're indifferent. I don't care. I'm just going to keep on doing this. All right, thank you and goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of The Dictionary. Just wanted to let you know, last night I went to see the movie Sword of Trust. It is by Lynn Shelton. It stars Mark Maron, among some other great actors, comedians, improvisers. The story was written out, but the movie, pretty much all the lines were improvised, from what I understand. So I saw the movie last night. I thought it was very funny, and there's some really heartwarming, dramatic moments as well. And at the end of the movie, Mark Maron was interviewed by the Chicago actor and director, filmmaker Joe Swanberg. The audience got to ask some questions as well. I asked him to delve a little bit deeper into his acting process because he's relatively new to acting, and he talks about that a lot on his podcast. And he likes to get, as he even said during the Q&A, free lessons from the actors that he has on his podcast. So I was just curious, with this character specifically, how he got into character, what were some things he did to get into character, tips and tricks, that sort of thing. But if you know anything about him and you see the movie, you sort of realize a good portion of the character is actually himself. He's bringing a lot of his own personal experiences to the character, which I think was sort of written into the character to begin with. But, my question was pretty basic and not all that interesting, but he was very gracious and he gave me a good answer. He said that it was all about sort of being in the location. He works in a pawn shop and just sort of being there and sort of taking on the personality and the character of, who is that guy who owns this pawn shop. And then at the end, he said, hey, great question. You could have a career asking questions, but I think he was being a little silly because it was not the most interesting question in the world. Let's get to the words. First for this episode is amplifier. A-M-P-L-I-F-I-E-R. This is a noun from 1546, one that amplifies, specifically, an electronic device as in a stereo system for amplifying voltage, current, or power. Next we have amplify, with an F-Y at the end. This is a verb from the 14th century. Transitive definitions are 1. To expand as a statement by the use of detail or illustration or by closer analysis. 2a. To make larger or greater, as in amount, importance, or intensity. Synonym is increase. 2b. To increase the strength or amount of, especially to make louder. 2c. To cause a gene or DNA sequence to undergo amplification. The intransitive definition is to expand one's remarks or ideas, and we have a synonym that is the word expand. I am currently using a microphone, which by the technology of electricity and some other things I'm guessing is amplifying my voice and allowing it to be recorded into a recorder. Next we have amplitude. Man, I'm so sick of your amplitude. This is a noun from 1542. 1. Extent of dignity, excellence, or splendor. 2. The quality or state of being ample. Synonyms are fullness and abundance. 3. The extent or range of a quality, property, process, or phenomenon, as 3a. The extent of a vibratory movement, as of a pendulum, measured from the mean position to an extreme. Mean, in this case, is M-E-A-N, but more specifically, it basically means the average position. 3b. The maximum departure of the value of an alternating current or wave from the average value. 4. The angle assigned to a complex number when it is plotted in a complex plane using polar coordinates, called also argument, and compare to absolute value 2. In the number 4 definition, it said the angle assigned, and I kind of wanted to say the angel assigned, but that is spelled A-N-G-E-L. But I do find it funny when people mistakenly switch the spellings of those two words. I'm sure you can find examples of that on the internet. Next we have amplitude modulation, 2 words. This is a noun from 1921. Modulation of the amplitude of a radio carrier wave in accordance with the strength of the audio or other signal. Also, a broadcasting system using such modulation, and compare to frequency modulation. Next we have ampoule. I think that's how it's pronounced. It can be spelled either A-M-P-O-U-L-E or A-M-P-U-L-E or A-M-P-U-L. This is a noun from 1886. 1. A hermetically sealed, small bulbous glass vessel that is used to hold a solution for hypodermic injection. 2. A vial resembling an ampoule. It says this is from the Middle English ampoule, A-M-P-U-L-L-E, which means flask. And that's the most interesting part of the etymology. Next we have, it could be pronounced a couple different ways. First way is ampulla. Second way is ampulla. It is spelled A-M-P-U-L-L-A. This is a noun from before the 12th century. 1. A glass or earthenware flask with a globular body and 2 handles used especially by the ancient Romans to hold ointment, perfume, or wine. 2. A saccular anatomical swelling or pouch. Ampullary or ampullary is an adjective, and both of those pronunciations are in here. Next we have ampulla of Lorenzini. So it's the same word ampulla, next word of, next word capital L-O-R-E-N-Z-I-N-I. This is from 1898. It's not telling me what it is. The definition says, any of the pores on the snouts of marine sharks and rays that contain receptors highly sensitive to weak electric fields. And after reading that definition, I think I have actually heard about this when I used to watch Shark Week or things like that, because sharks are pretty damn awesome. This is from Stefano Lorenzini. He's from 1678, an Italian physician. Next we have amputate. This is a verb from 1612. To remove by or as if by cutting, especially to cut as a limb from the body. Amputation is a noun. The etymology says this is from amputatus and amputare, which is made combining am or amb, which means around, plus putare, which means to cut or prune. And there's more at the prefix ambi, which we have read. Next is amputee, something that is very much related to the previous word. This is a noun from 1910, one that has had a limb amputated. That's it. Next we have AMT, all lowercase. This is an abbreviation for the word amount. All right, next and last for this episode is Amtrak, spelled either A-M-T-R-A-C or you can throw a K at the end. This is a noun from 1944, a flat-bottomed military vehicle that moves on tracks on land or water. The etymology is from combining the words amphibious and tractor. So the AM from amphibious and the TRAC from tractor. I had no idea that this was an actual word. I just always thought of the train company Amtrak. But now I'm guessing this is where they got it from. All right, that will end this episode. Thank you very much for listening. And as usual, send me a message, rate, review, share. Tell me how much you hate this podcast. Thank you and goodbye.
Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of The Dictionary. This would be incredibly irritating if I talked like this the whole time, so I won't do it. I just thought it was funny.
First word for this episode is amu, although I don't think it's pronounced that way. A-M-U. This is an abbreviation for atomic mass unit. And apologies if you're getting those, what they're called plosive sounds when I say T or P. I do have one of the mesh things in front of this microphone, but it doesn't seem to be really doing its job. So I think I may have to add a second one or something. All right, next word is amuck, A-M-U-C-K. This is a variation of amok, A-M-O-K, which we must have read a while ago. Next we have amulet. This is a noun from 1584, a charm as an ornament, often inscribed with a magic incantation or symbol to aid the wearer or protect against evil, as disease or witchcraft. Ooh. Next we have Amur tiger. I think I'm pronouncing Amur correctly. Capital A-M-U-R. And then the word tiger, which I hope you are all familiar with. This is a noun from 1917. We just have the synonym Siberian tiger. And it gets its name from the Amur River in Asia. I don't know where in Asia that is. It just says Asia. There's lots of countries in Asia. Dictionary, which country is it? Maybe it spans multiple countries, and that's why they only put Asia. That would make sense. Thanks. Next we have the word amuse. This is a verb from the 15th century. Transitive definitions are 1a, archaic, to divert the attention of so as to deceive. That's tricky. 1b is obsolete. Again, what's the difference between archaic and obsolete? Does obsolete mean that it's not used anymore? Archaic means that it sort of is used, but it's really, really old? I don't know. All right, 1b, to occupy the attention of. Synonym is absorb. 1c is also obsolete, and it has the synonyms distract and bewilder. 2a, to entertain or occupy in a light, playful, or pleasant manner. As in, amuse the child with a story. 2b, to appeal to the sense of humor of. As in, the joke doesn't amuse me. We have one sort of intransitive verb definition. It is obsolete, and it's just the synonym muse, M-U-S-E. Amusedly is an adverb, and amuser is a noun. We have some synonym information that I would like to read to you now. Do you give me permission? Okay, thanks. Amuse, divert, entertain, mean to pass or cause to pass the time pleasantly. Amuse suggests that one's attention is engaged lightly, as in, amuse yourselves while I make dinner. Because if you don't, you're going to get in my way, so get out of my kitchen. Divert implies distracting attention from worry or routine occupation, especially by something funny, as in, a light comedy to divert the tired businessman. Entertain suggests supplying amusement by specially contrived methods, as in a magician entertaining children at a party. And next we have a very fun word to say, amuse-bouche. A-M-U-S-E-B-O-U-C-H-E. I think this might be French. Yes, it's French. This is a noun from 1984. A small complimentary appetizer offered at some restaurants. And as I said, it's French. It literally means it entertains the mouth. Ooh. I sort of assumed that the amuse or the amuse part of it was not really related to the English word amuse, that word is looking really weird now. But I guess it is. So it's a thing to entertain your mouth. Bouche must mean mouth in French or some form of that. I think in Spanish it's boca, B-O-C-A, is mouth. So that would make sense. This is spelled relatively similar. I'm going to have to use this more often if I remember to. All right, next is amusement. This is a noun from 1586. 1. A means of amusing or entertaining, as in, what are her favorite amusements? 2. The condition of being amused, as in, could not hide his amusement. 3. Pleasurable diversion. Synonym is entertainment, as in, plays the piano for amusement. Now we have amusement park. This is a noun from 1896. A commercially operated park having various devices for entertainment, as a merry-go-round and roller coaster, and usually booths for the sale of food and drink. Next we have amusing. This is an adjective from 1676. Giving amusement. That's the definition. And we have a synonym, diverting. Amusingly is an adverb and amusingness is a noun. Now we have AMVETS, AMVETS, all caps. This is an abbreviation for American Veterans of World War II, and the of World War II is in parentheses. I didn't realize it was specifically for World War II. I thought that it could be all American veterans, but I guess not. And just so you know, I'm moving my mouth in a different position from the microphone, and I'm getting a slightly different effect, so I think I might use this. I think I kind of like it better. Next, we have amygdala, AMYGDALA. This is a noun from 1845. The one of the 4 basal ganglia in each cerebral hemisphere that is part of the limbic system and consists of an almond-shaped mass of gray matter in the anterior extremity of the temporal lobe, called also amygdaloid nucleus. The etymology says this is from the Latin word for almond. It's from the Greek amygdali, pronounced something like that. Or maybe amygdala is actually the Latin word, and it means almond. Something like that. Next is amygdalin, AMYGDALIN. This is a noun from 1651. A white crystalline cyogenetic glucoside, C20H27NO11, found especially in the seeds of the apricot, peach, and bitter almond. Compare to the word laetrile or Laetrile, LAETRILE. Next, we have amygdaloid. This is an adjective from 1836. 1, just means almond-shaped. 2, of, relating to, or affecting an amygdala. Next is amygdaloidal. This is an adjective from 1797. Maybe I should spell this one. AMYGDALOIDAL. Definition is of being or containing small cavities in igneous rocks that are filled with deposits of different minerals as chalcedony. Boy, I get confused on the pronunciation of that word every time. That's the end of the definition. And amygdaloid is a noun. Next is amyl, AMYL. This is a noun from 1841. Any of various isometric alkyl radicals, C5H11, derived from pentane. Now we have amyl, but it's a prefix, so AMYL dash, although when it's used, it doesn't actually have the dash. And also amylo, AMYLO. I'm sure they will give us some examples. It doesn't give me a year, so apologies for that. So the definition just says starch, as in amyloplast. I think that's how it's pronounced, AMYLOPLAST. This is from the Greek amylon, which is the neutral form of amylose, which means unmilled, of grain, and that is made combining A plus myle, M-Y-L-E, which means mill, and there's more at the word meal. So mill is M-I-L-L, and meal is M-E-A-L. I tried to pronounce things very clearly for you. I hope you appreciate that. Next is amyl acetate. 2 separate words. This is a noun from 1863. A colorless liquid acetate, C7H14O2, of amyl alcohol that has a pleasant fruity odor and is used especially as a solvent and in the manufacture of artificial fruit essences, called also banana oil. And next we have amyl alcohol. This is a noun from 1849. Any of 8 isometric alcohols, C5H12O, used especially as solvents in making esters. Also, a commercially produced mixture of amyl alcohols used especially as a solvent. And we'll do one more for this episode. Amylase, A-M-Y-L-A-S-E. This is a noun from 1883. Any of a group of enzymes as amylopsin that catalyze the hydrolysis of starch and glycogen of their intermediate hydrolysis products. I have no idea what I just read. But we are at the end of the episode, so this is the time that I tell you to rate and review and share and like the Facebook page and the Twitter, and I don't have an Instagram, and give me money on Patreon because you know you wanna. So that's the end of the episode. Thank you and goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of The Dictionary. I will be saying that many thousands of times more. We are halfway through page 43, so let's get a little bit further on. First for this episode is amyl nitrate. AMYL, next word NITRATE. This is a noun from 1867. 1. A colorless liquid ester, C5H11NO3, of amyl alcohol and nitric acid. 2. We have the synonym amyl nitrite. So not nitrate, which is what we're reading, but it is amyl nitrite, which is our next word. And it does say not used technically. I have no idea what that means. But let's get to the definition for amyl nitrate. This is a noun from 1867. A pale yellow pungent flammable liquid ester, C5H11NO2, of commercial amyl alcohol and nitrous acid that is used in medicine as a vasodilator and inhaled illicitly, especially as an aphrodisiac. Compare to Popper 2. Next we have amyloid, AMYLOID. This is a noun from 1866. A waxy, translucent substance consisting primarily of protein that is deposited in some animal organs and tissues under abnormal conditions as Alzheimer's disease. Compare to beta amyloid. Amyloid is also an adjective. Next is amyloidosis. We are clearly in the midst of these scientific words again. AMYLOIDOSIS. This is a noun from 1886. A disorder characterized by the deposition of amyloid in bodily organs and tissues. Next we have amylolytic. Should I spell it? AMYLOLYTIC. This is an adjective from 1876, characterized by or capable of the enzymatic splitting of starch into soluble products, as in amylolytic enzymes or amylolytic activity. And I like to say the word amylolytic. It's probably a good tongue twister if you're trying to loosen up your mouth and your lips. Amylolytic. Next is amylopectin. The end of that word is PECTIN. This is a noun from 1905. A component of starch that has a high molecular weight and branched structure and does not tend to gel as aqueous solutions. Aqueous, I think I pronounced it correctly, is AQUEOUS. And that word has 4 vowels in a row, in case you were curious. Next is amyloplast. This is a noun from 1882, a colorless plastid that forms and stores starch. I hope plastid is correct. If not, this has a mistake, because it looks like plastic, but instead of the C, it's a D. So when we get to the P's, we'll see if that's actually a word. Next, we have amylopsin. This is a noun from 1878. The amylase of the pancreatic juice. And if you want to know more about the pancreas, go listen to Weird Al's song about it. Yes, he has a whole song about the pancreas. It's very smart and well done. You will probably learn something, and it's just a fun song musically anyway. So go listen to it. Next, we have amylose. AMYLOSE. This is a noun from 1833. A component of starch characterized by its straight chains of glucose units. Next we have amyotonia, AMYOTONIA. This is a noun from 1908. Deficiency of muscle tone. Ooh, you don't want that. You want to keep those muscles toned, I guess. Next we have amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. That is 3 separate words. I don't want to spell them. This is a noun from 1875, a rare, progressive, degenerative, fatal disease affecting the motor neurons, usually beginning in middle age and characterized especially by increasing and spreading muscular weakness and atrophy. Abbreviation is ALS, called also Lou Gehrig's disease. This has gotten a lot of exposure over the last 10, 15 years or so, especially with the Ice Bucket Challenge. That really got it into the consciousness of the culture and society, which is good because this is a terrible, terrible, terrible disease. You lose all your motor functions with your body gradually over time, but as far as I know, your brain stays with it. So you have to be very aware, or you are very aware that your body is basically just crumbling in front of you and you can't do anything about it. And eventually, you will have to have somebody bathe you and wipe your butt when you go to the bathroom, and clean you up and feed you, and eventually I think your lungs just stop working, and you die. So sorry to be depressing there, but that is the truth of it. And I don't know if they really know how it starts or if there's anything you can do to prevent it, but I don't think there's a cure, and so that's why they need a lot of support to keep on researching it and to see if they can do anything about it. Enough of that, let's move on. Next is amytal, capital AMYTAL. This is a trademark, and it says it's used for amobarbital. All right, we are getting into a funky section. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 words that all are just AN, the letters AN. So I think I will split these up between 2 episodes, so let's just start with a few of them. So we have, as I said, AN, 4 forms of just the word, and then we have some other weird forms of AN. So this first one is an indefinite article. By the way, I'm not going to spell it because I did that, and it's just the word an. It is from before the 12th century. The definition is just the letter A with a superscript 2 before it. So if you were to go back to probably episode 1, that would be the second form of the letter A, capital A, by the way. And for usage, it just says see the same thing I just said, A with a superscript 2. The etymology says this is from the Old English an, which means one, and there's more at the word one. All right, second form of this word an is a preposition also from before the 12th century, and in this case, we have the capital A with the superscript 3 before it. That's above the word, in this case above the letter. And then we have the number 2. So it is the third form of capital A second definition. And for usage, it says A with the superscript 2, same as the last one. Now we have the third form of an. It says also it could be an apostrophe, so an apostrophe. This is a conjunction from the 12th century. 1, it says see the word and, A-N-D. 2 is archaic, and it just has the synonym if, I-F. Now we have the fourth form of an. This is an abbreviation, and it's for the word year. And the reason it's an abbreviation for year is because it's actually for the Latin word, which is annum or annus, A-N-N-U-M or A-N-N-U-S. And we'll do one more for this episode. This is a prefix A-N, and it just says see A with a superscript 2, so the same as the first one we read. Sorry, this is a terribly not interesting part of the dictionary, but hey, we got to get through it. But the next episode should be much more interesting, which I'm going to record right now. So thank you for listening to this episode, all the usual stuff, and goodbye. Hello, word nerds! Welcome to another episode of The Dictionary. All right, we're at the end of page 43. For those who may not be aware, in addition to putting the contact info in the episode description. Every once in a while, I will put one or two links as well. So if what that means is that if there's a word in the episode that I say, ooh, I got to look more into that, or I'm curious about that, I will do a quick little bit of research and I'll throw a link in there. So if you listen to the episode and you hear me say something like that, go ahead and look in the details because there's usually some more information that you might find interesting. Specifically, a few episodes ago, I don't remember what the word was exactly, but there were a couple. Oh, I remember. It was amphora and amphitheater. So this was 4 episodes ago, I think. I was curious why they started with amphi, A-M-P-H-I. And so I went to etymonline.com and found out some more etymology about them. And I think you should go look at that. All right, if you remember from the previous episode, we were in the middle of a bunch of words that are just A-N. So we're about halfway through. So we have here a suffix A-N, or it could also be I-A-N or E-A-N. And this is the first form of 3 for the A-N suffix. So the first definition for the first form of the suffix A-N, one that is of or relating to, as in American. 2, one skilled in or specializing in, as in phonetician. So that one has the I-A-N suffix, and that whole word, because it's a weird one, is spelled P-H-O-N-E-T-I-C-I-A-N. And I'm guessing that's somebody who deals with phonetics, which I think are pretty interesting, actually. All right, now we have the second form of the suffix an or ian or ean. This is also, it's an adjective suffix. 1, of or belonging to, as in American or Floridian. 2, characteristic of, resembling, as in Mozartian. So that's the name Mozart, the last name Mozart, with ean at the end. So that would be something that's similar to the music of Mozart. All right, now we have the third form of the suffix an. 1, unsaturated organic compound, as in furan. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. It is F-U-R-A-N. 2, anhydride, that's one word, anhydride, of a carbohydrate, as in dextran, D-E-X-T-R-A-N. All right, we have one more A-N word. This is an abbreviation, and both letters are capitalized. It's an abbreviation for airman or airman. And then in parentheses, it says Navy. So an airman in the Navy.
In the Navy.
All right, next is Ana, A-N-A, the first form of it. This is an adverb from the 14th century, of each an equal quantity. I'm not sure I've heard this specific situation before. The etymology says this looks like maybe a Latin or Greek word, and it means at the rate of, literally up, U-P. So that's an interesting one. But now we have the second form of Ana. This is a noun from circa 1751. 1, a collection of the memorable sayings of a person. 2, a collection of anecdotes or interesting information about a person or a place. And again, I can't say that I have any memory of hearing this word used in this way, so maybe I will in the future. Now we have ANA all caps. This is an abbreviation for the American Nurses Association. Now we have ANA as a prefix. Could also be AN as a prefix, which we've read recently. 1, up or upward, as in anabolism. Is that how it's pronounced? ANABOLISM, anabolism, I think. 2 is back or backward, as in anatropous, ANATROPOUS. The etymology says this is Latin from Greek, and it means up or back or again. And there's more at the word on, O-N. Now we have a suffix ana, A-N-A, or I-A-N-A. collected items of information, especially anecdotal or bibliographical concerning, as in Americana. Now we have Anabaptism, all one word, Anabaptism. This is a noun from 1575. 1, when it's capitalized. 1a, the doctrine or practices of the Anabaptists. I didn't know there were people called Anabaptists. 1b, the Anabaptist movement. 2, the baptism of one previously baptized. So I guess it means second baptism? The etymology is helpful. It says it's from the Greek anabaptismos, which means rebaptism. That is from anabaptizine, which means to rebaptize, which is from Greek ana, which means again, and baptizine, which means to baptize. Now we have Anabaptist with a capital A. This is a noun from 1532. A Protestant sectarian of a radical movement arising in the 16th century and advocating the baptism and church membership of adult believers only, non-resistance, and the separation of church and state. Anabaptist is also an adjective. Now we have Anabasis, Anabasis. This is a noun from circa 1706. 1, a going or marching up. Synonym is advance, especially a military advance. 2, a difficult and dangerous military retreat. So this is Greek. It means inland march. It's from anabeinine, which means to go up or inland. And that is from beinine, which means to go. And there's more at the word come, C-O-M-E. And this second definition actually has a little bit more etymological information, which I don't think I've seen before. It says it's from the retreat of Greek mercenaries in Asia Minor, described in the Anabasis of Xenophon. Xenophon is spelled Xenophon. It's a capital X. And of course, I almost said Z, or for my British speakers, Z. Now we have anabatic, A-N-A-B-A-T-I-C. This is an adjective from circa 1918, moving upward. Synonym is rising, as in an anabatic wind. Now we have anabolic steroid, 2 separate words. This is a noun from 1946. Any of a group of usually synthetic hormones that are derivatives of testosterone are usually medically, especially to promote tissue growth, and are sometimes abused by athletes to increase the size and strength of their muscles and improve endurance. Now we have anabolism, A-N-A-B-O-L-I-S-M. I think this was a word that I was having trouble with before. This is a noun from 1886. The constructive part of metabolism concerned especially with macromolecular synthesis, compared to catabolism, C-A-T-A, bolism. And anabolic is an adjective. Now we have anachronism, A-N-A-C-H-R-O-N-I-S-M. This is a noun from 1617. 1, an error in chronology, especially a chronological misplacing of persons, events, objects, or customs in regard to each other. 2, a person or a thing that is chronologically out of place, especially one from a former age that is incongruous in the present. Does that mean a time traveler? 3, the state or condition of being chronologically out of place. Anachronistic and anachronic are adjectives. Anachronistically or anachronistically is an adverb. Anachronous is an adjective, and anachronistically is an adverb. Those are some funky words to say, and I think we will end it there. We have one more at the end of this page, but it does go on to the next page, so I think we're just going to leave it for the next episode. Another cliffhanger. All right, thank you so much. Rate, review, share, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. Thank you and goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of this podcast. I'm not going to say the name because you should know what it is. My name is Spencer. I am here to read you words and stuff. Yesterday, I was editing some episodes of this podcast, and I realized that this, I think, is a really good podcast for kids. It's not explicit. I don't swear. It's learning words. It's learning etymology, Latin, Greek, other languages. So if you are a listener and you know some kids, probably between the ages of, 5 and 15, maybe pass this along to them. It would be a really great way for them to learn new words, because I know I am learning a ton of words. So with this realization, I don't think I'm going to change the podcast really in any way. I may say a few extra kid-friendly things every now and again, but in general, it's going to stay pretty much the same. But I highly recommend that you recommend this to kids in your life. All right, let's get to the words. We are on the last word of page 43 because it goes on to page 44, so I will have to do a page flip. This is anaclitic, A-N-A-C-L-I-T-I-C. This is an adjective from 1922. Of, relating to, or characterized by the direction of love toward an object as the mother that satisfies non-sexual needs as hunger. The etymology says this is from the Greek anaklitos, which is from anakleinin, I think that's the verb, which means to lean upon, and that is from kleinin, which means to lean. So adding A-N-A at the beginning makes it to lean upon, and there's more at the word lean, L-E-A-N. Next word is anacoluthin. I think that's how it's pronounced, A-N-A-C-O-L-U-T-H-O-N. This is a noun from circa 1706. Syntactical inconsistency or incoherence with a sentence, especially a shift in an unfinished sentence from one syntactic construction to another, as in, quote, you really ought, well, do it your own way. So I think what it's saying is basically there's an idea, there's a thought, and then you sort of interrupt yourself, you haven't finished the thought, and then you move on to something else, or just finish that and say something else. I know some people who talk this way, so I guess I would say that they speak in a anacoluthin way, or actually anacoluthic, that's the adjective. They speak in an anacoluthic way when they're constantly not finishing thoughts. And anacoleuthically is an adverb. The etymology says this is from the Greek anakoluthon, spelled slightly differently, which means inconsistency in logic. That is the neutral of anakoluthos, which means inconsistent. This is from akoluthos, which means following. And this is from kiluthos, which means path, P-A-T-H. All right, next we have anaconda. This is a noun from 1768, a large semi-aquatic constricting snake of the boa family of tropical South America that may reach a length of 30 feet, also 9.1 meters, and broadly any of the large constricting snakes. Yeah, those snakes are huge. I've seen photos of a bunch of people holding up one. It's probably a dead one, and it takes a lot of people to hold those things up. The scientific name is Eunectes or Eunectes murinus. The etymology says this is probably a modified form of the Sinhalese word hanakandaya, which is a slender green snake. And there's a little black and white picture of an anaconda, but this one is only a couple inches long, opposed to the 30 feet of a real anaconda. Next we have anacreontic. Boy, other than anaconda, I don't know any of these words. A-N-A-C-R-E-O-N-T-I-C. This is a noun from 1656, a poem in the manner of Anacreon. Don't know who that is. Especially a drinking song or light lyric. And now we have a related word, anacreontic, with a capital A. This is an adjective. Maybe it's not related. It sure seems like it should be. Yeah, it is. This is an adjective from 1611. 1. Of, relating to, or resembling the poetry of Anacreon. And again, still don't know who that is. 2. Convivial or amatory in tone or theme. So the difference between this word and the previous one is that the first one is a noun. So it's an actual song or lyric that is anacreontic. The other one, the second one I read, is an adjective. So it's something in an anacreon way. Maybe Anacreon is not a person, but it's actually a place or location. I may have to look into that. All right, next we have anacrusis. Anacrusis. This is a noun from 1831. One or more syllables at the beginning of a line of poetry that are regarded as a preliminary to and not a part of the metrical pattern. 2. We have the synonym upbeat, specifically one or more notes or tones preceding the first downbeat of a musical phrase. So I have a bit of a musical background, so that one makes a little bit more sense for me. And if I remember correctly, every once in a while in a piece of music, right before the first measure, there would be maybe one or two notes from what would have been the previous measure, and it just sort of leads into the normal part of the song. And it sounds like with poetry, there is a similar situation. I don't know if I ever realized that it was called anacrusis, though. All right, next we have anadama bread. Anadama, second word, bread. This is a noun from 1954. A leavened bread made with flour, cornmeal, and molasses. Sounds interesting. It says the origin is unknown, where that word comes from. So they don't even have a location on the world of where it could have come from. That is pretty interesting. I might have to go to that etymology website to see if they know more. Now we have anadem, Anadem. This is a noun from 1598. It's archaic. A wreath for the head. Synonym is garland. I think part of the reason why that is archaic is because people don't usually put wreaths on their head anymore. This used to happen many, many years ago, but I can't remember the last time I saw somebody walking down the street with a wreath on their head. The etymology is from Greek anadema, which is from amadin, which means to wreathe. And that is from ana plus din, which means to bind, and there's more at the word diadem. Next we have anadiplosis. That's a fun word, Anadiplosis. This is a noun from circa 1550. Repetition of a prominent and usually the last word in one phrase or clause at the beginning of the next, as in rely on his honor such as his, ? It doesn't say who that's from or where that's from, but that's the quote. The etymology says this is from the Greek anadiplosis, I guess that's the same word, which literally means repetition. And that is from anadiplone, which means to double. And that is from diplone, which also means to double. And there's more at the word diploma. How did they get diploma from diplone, which means to double? Diploma is just one thing. It's a piece of paper. So I don't know where double comes into it. Now we have anadromous. Anadromous. This is an adjective from circa 1753. Ascending rivers from the sea for breeding, as in shad are anadromous. I'm assuming shad are fish? It says compare to the word catadromous. So it has the same ending, but it starts with C-A-T instead of A-N. So that's probably the opposite, and maybe it's descending rivers from the sea for breeding. I don't know. The etymology says this is from the Greek anadromos, which means running upward, which is from anadromin, which means to run upward, and that is from dramin, which means to run, and there's more at the word dromedary, which is a camel. Now we have anemia or anemic. It is spelled A-N-A-E-M-I-A or A-N-A-E-M-I-C, depending on which word we're talking about. And this is a chiefly British variation of anemia and anemic without the second A. Now we have anaerobe. anaerobe. This is a noun from 1884, an anaerobic organism. So if there's an organism that's anaerobic, it's called an anaerobe. And now we have anaerobic. This is an adjective from circa 1881. 1a, living, active, occurring, or existing in the absence of free oxygen. So those anaerobes don't have free oxygen, as in anaerobic respiration or anaerobic bacteria. 1b, of, relating to, or being activity in which the body incurs an oxygen debt, DEBT, as in anaerobic exercise. 2, relating to or induced by anaerobes. Anaerobically is an adverb. Now we have anaerobiosis. Anaerobiosis, blah-ba-doop-da-doos. This is a noun from circa 1889, life in the absence of air or free oxygen. Now we have a bunch of words that are the chiefly British variations of a bunch of other words. And you can probably guess the spelling difference. So these words are anesthesia, anesthesiologist, anesthesiology, anesthetic, anesthetize, and anesthetist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. So the American English spelling, I'll just give you the first word, is ANESTHESIA, and the British form is ANAESTHESIA. Again, they just added a second A in there. And I was not paying attention at all, and we went well past my normal spot for ending the episode, so we'll end it there, and the next one might just be a little shorter. All right, thank you for listening. Rate, review, subscribe, share, contact me, say hi, whatever. All right, thank you. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another exciting episode of the dictionary. I hope it's exciting. I guess we'll find out. If you listened to the last episode, which of course I recommend you do, I recommend you start all the way at the beginning and go straight on through because it's a journey. It's a fun journey that we're on together. But if you listened to it, you would have heard that I went way past my normal stopping point in the last episode, so this one should be a little short. Although I think I will, maybe I'll spread it out a little bit over the next couple episodes. All right, here we have anagenesis, ANAGENESIS. This is a noun from 1883. Evolutionary change producing a single lineage in which one taxon replaces another without branching. Compare to cladogenesis, CLADO genesis. I'm curious about this definition, so I may have to look into it a little bit more. I'm a little confused because when I think of evolution, I think of things constantly changing over thousands, millions of years. But what I think this is saying is that there is no change. There's no branching. It's a single lineage. But at the beginning, it does say there's an evolutionary change. So is there or isn't there? And if there is, are there branches or are there not branches? Maybe it's saying that normally when there's evolutionary changes, the group branches into 2 or 3 or more, but there can still be evolution that happens. I want to know a specific example of when this has happened. I'm just really curious. I think evolution is super fascinating, so I'll stop talking about it now, though. Next, we have anaglyph, ANAGLYPH. This is a noun from 1651. 1. A sculptured, chased, or embossed ornament worked in low relief. And in this case, I think low relief means not very deep into the sculpture, into the medium that it's being worked on. I hope. Number 2, a stereoscopic motion or still picture in which the right component of a composite image, usually red in color, is superposed on the left component in a contrasting color to produce a three-dimensional effect when viewed through correspondingly colored filters in the form of spectacles. So if you grew up in between the 50s and the 90s, you would have seen these red and blue 3D glasses. I guess they still exist to this day, but when you go to the movie theater, you don't really see them. They have a more high-tech 3D glasses. Anaglyphic is an adjective. And the etymology says this is from the Latin anaglyphos, which means embossed. And that is from the Greek anaglyphos, which means, that's from anaglyphine, which means to emboss. That is from glyphine, which means to carve. And there's more at the word cleave, C-L-E-A-V-E. Next, we have anagnorisis, A-N-A-G-N-O-R-I-S-I-S. This is a noun from circa 1800. The point in the plot, especially of a tragedy, at which the protagonist recognizes his or her or some other character's true identity or discovers the true nature of his or her own situation. This is from the Greek anagnoritzine, which means to recognize, and that is from agnorixine. Again, pronunciation is terrible. That means to make known, and that is akin to the Greek norimos, which is well known. That is from gignoskin, which means to come to know, and there's more at the word know, K-N-O-W. Lots and lots of Greek words. I don't know Greek at all, so apologies for that. Next we have anagogy. I think that's how it's pronounced. It can be spelled A-N-A-G-O-G-E or G-O-G-Y. I feel like I've seen this before, and maybe I've pronounced it anagagi or anagi. Who knows? But I think it's saying anagogy is correct. This is a noun from the 15th century. Interpretation of a word, passage, or text as of scripture or poetry that finds beyond the literal, allegorical, and moral senses a fourth and ultimate spiritual or mystical sense. Anagogic or anagogical are adjectives, and anagogically is an adverb. This is from the Greek anagogy, which means reference, anagene, which means to refer, agene, which means to lead, and there's more at the word agent. I've seen agent in this situation many, many times in the etymology throughout my 44 pages of this dictionary. Now we have anagram, A-N-A-G-R-A-M. It's the first form of two. This is a noun from 1589. 1. A word or phrase made by transposing the letters of another word or phrase. 2. A game in which words are formed by rearranging the letters of other words or by arranging letters taken as from a stock of cards or blocks at random. Anagrammatic and anagrammatical are adjectives, and anagrammatically is an adverb. I can't imagine that anagrammatically ever gets used. If you can think of an example where anagrammatically would be used, please email me, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. I would love to hear it. This is from the Latin anagramma, which is modified from Greek anagrammatismos, which is from anagrammatizine, which means to transpose letters. I just think it's so funny that these old languages, I mean, they're not totally old. Greek is still around, but I think it's so funny that there's this long word that means to transpose letters. German is kind of like that too, although in German they really just put a bunch of words together to make one big one. But in this case, it's just basically one word that means to transpose letters, which is just highly specific. Anyway, that is from gramma, which is letter, and there's more at the word gram. Now we have the second form of anagram. This is a transitive verb from 1630. 1. We have the synonym anagrammatize, but I don't think that's how it's pronounced. Anagrammatize, that's probably more correct. 2. To rearrange the letters of a text in order to discover a hidden message. Now we have anagrammatize, and yes, it looks like the pronunciation says anagrammatize. This is a transitive verb from 1588. To transpose as letters in a word so as to form an anagram. Anagrammatization is a noun. Next we have Anaheim, capital A-N-A-H-E-I-M. This is a noun from 1936, a long tapered green, usually mild chili pepper. So it could also be said a long tapered green chili pepper that is usually mild. And this is taken from Anaheim, California. So I guess that's where they're grown. I'm going to finish this up with two forms of one word, which some of you may think should take me into the explicit category for podcasts, but I would disagree with this one in particular. But in general, this is the dictionary. These are words. These are English words. There's nothing good or bad about them. They're just words, and they should all be known. They should all be learned. This next one isn't a swear word, but it's the word anal, A-N-A-L. There's nothing derogatory or good or bad or gross about it. It's just a word. So with that little diatribe, let's get into the word anal, and these will be the last of this episode. The first form is an adjective from 1769. 1. Of relating to, situated near or involving the anus, as in an anal fin. 2a. Of relating to, characterized by or being the stage of psychosexual development in psychoanalytic theory which follows the oral stage and during which the child is concerned especially with its feces. 2b. Of relating to, characterized by or being personality traits as parsimony, meticulousness, and ill humor, considered typical of fixation at the anal stage of development, as in an anal disposition, or anal neatness. And we have an adverb form, and it's just anally, A-N-A-L-L-Y. And last for this episode is the second form of anal, but this one is actually an abbreviation. So you could probably pronounce it anal, maybe? 1. Analogy, and 2. Analysis or analytic. And something I decided to do yesterday, we'll see if I actually keep up with this. I already forgot to do it for the previous episode, is to pick a word. Pick a word from the episode that was my favorite for whatever reason, and I have no idea what I'm going to base this on, but let's see if we can pick one. Or rather, let's see if I can pick one, because, you don't get a say in this. But if you want to pick one for each episode, go ahead and let me know. Email me, tweet me, send me a message on Facebook, and let me know what your favorite word of that episode was. And I have decided to pick anagenesis, only because the concept of it I thought was pretty interesting. And as I said, I think I want to go back and do a little bit more research on what this is, what it means, what's an example of anagenesis evolution, I guess. So yeah, that's my word for the episode. Thank you very much for listening. All the normal things, rate, review, etc. And until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. I'm going to talk to you in the next one. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to this episode. Yep, keep on going. First word for this episode is, I think it's pronounced, analcime. A-N-A-L-C-I-M-E. This is a noun from 1803, a white or slightly colored mineral that consists of hydrated silicate or sodium and aluminum and occurs in various igneous rocks in massive form or in crystals. The etymology says this is from a Greek analkimos, which means weak, and that is from alkimos, which means strong, and alki, which means strength. Now we have analects, A-N-A-L-E-C-T-S. This is a noun from 1652, selected miscellaneous written passages. That's the whole definition. The etymology says this is from the Greek analegin, which means to collect, and that is from legin, which means to gather, and there's more at the word legend. Now we have analemma, A-N-A-L-E-M-M-A. This is a noun from 1832, a plot or graph of the position of the sun in the sky at a certain time of day, as noon, at one locale measured throughout the year that has the shape of a figure 8. Also, a scale, as on a globe or sundial, based on such a plot that shows the sun's position for each day of the year, or that follows local mean time to be determined. Analemmatic is an adjective, and the etymology says it is Latin. It means sundial on a pedestal. It's from the Greek analemma, which means lofty structure or sundial. That is from analamabenin. Ooh, I think I screwed that one up, which means to take up or restore. And that is from lambanin, which means to take. And there's more at the word latch, L-A-T-C-H. Next, we have analeptic. This is a noun from 1671, a drug that stimulates the central nervous system. Analeptic is also an adjective. Now we have analgesia. I think that's how it's pronounced, A-N-A-L-G-E-S-I-A. This is a noun from circa 1706. Insensibility to pain without loss of consciousness. Is that saying that you don't experience pain while you're still conscious? I think. This is from the Greek algesis, which means sense of pain, from algene, which means to suffer pain, and algos, which means pain. Now we have analgesic, A-N-A-L-G-E-S-I-C. This is a noun from 1875, an agent for producing analgesia, which was our previous word. Analgesic is also an adjective. So I think what it's saying, if I put the two together, that yes, analgesia is a time when you are not feeling pain, but you're still conscious. And so you would use an analgesic to get you into that situation. So maybe this is for surgery. If you need to be conscious, they'll give you an analgesic and you won't feel any pain, hopefully. Now we have anality, A-N-A-L-I-T-Y. This is a noun from 1939, the psychological state or quality of being anal. Now we have analog. This is an adjective from 1946. 1. Of, relating to, or being an analog. And the spelling is different. So our main word is A-N-A-L-O-G. In the definition, it is A-N-A-L-O-G-U-E. 2A. Of, relating to, or being a mechanism in which data or data is represented by continuously variable physical quantities. 2B. Of or relating to an analog computer. 2C. Being a timepiece having hour and minute hands. Now we have analog computer. This is a noun from 1948. A computer that operates with numbers represented by directly measurable quantities as voltages or rotations, and it says compared to the words digital computer and hybrid computer. I've seen old calculators. I would assume that they are called analog calculators that have just a ton of gears and levers and lots of crazy things going on, and that's what they used. They had to do it all mechanically and physically, and there was no digital computer chip, anything in there to do the work. So they had to figure out how to do it in a mechanical, physical way. So I'm guessing that's what analog computer is. And yeah, back in 1948, that makes sense. I just think it's a genius way of, or a genius feat of engineering to figure out how to create a calculator or a more complex computer in just analog physical ways. Analogical is next. Also analogic. This is an adjective from 1609. 1. Of, relating to, or based on analogy. 2. Expressing or implying analogy. Analogically is an adverb. Now we have analogist. A-N-A-L-O-G-I-S-T. This is a noun from 1788. One who searches for or reasons from analogies. Now we have analogize, A-N-A-L-O-G-I-Z-E. This is a verb from 1655. The intransitive definition is to use or exhibit analogy. Transitive definition is to compare by analogy. And I hope I said intransitive for that first definition because that's what that is. And we will do one more for this episode. Analogous, A-N-A-L-O-G-O-U-S. This is an adjective from 1646. 1. Showing an analogy or a likeness that permits one to draw an analogy. 2. being or related to as an analog. That is the GUE spelling. Synonym is the word similar. Analogously is an adverb, and analogousness is a noun. This is from the Greek analogos, which literally means proportionate. That is from logos, which means reason or ratio. It's from legin, which means to gather or speak, and there's more at the word legend. So that will end this episode, although I am supposed to pick a word. The word I'm going to pick is analemma. That's the one where the sun is depicted into a figure eight or an infinity symbol. I won't go into too much detail, but I've always found the positioning of the sun and the moon and the planets and everything pretty interesting. And so as the year goes on, the sun sets and rises at different positions and gets to different heights throughout the year, depending on where you are on the planet. So that picture of the sun would actually change. I actually wanted to do a photography project where I take a picture of the sun at the exact same time every day from the same position, adjusting for daylight savings time. I didn't actually end up doing this, but if I had done it, it would basically be a time lapse every day over the year, and the sun would move in a figure eight. So that's all I'm going to say about that. This episode is over. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.